First and foremost, as a policy, we have taken the position that we will not be extending the contracts of officers who reach 60. They must retire. This will help us to improve on the morale of our officers and also create room for promotion, especially at senior level management. So as a policy, we will not be extending a single contract beyond 60. And also for those officers, and there are not many, there are only 9 who are above 60, when the current extensions which were done before this administration took over expired, they will not be renewed. And that is a policy position. Number 2, on the same point, in terms of distribution per age, we want to ensure that we create the bulk of our officers to be at the most productive stages of our workforce, of our officers. And I will comment about that when we look at the distribution in terms of how many officers are in senior management and what are their ages in a short while. Change, and we are handling this through training modules on diversity, equity, inclusion, trying to inculcate among ourselves, among our officers, that inclusivity and diversity and equity is the fundamental requirements of our constitution, which must be adhered to, so that every person responsible for policy implementations, policy action, is informed by these requirements of our constitution. Number 2, we have had challenges around training, and we are trying to sensitize officers on to ensure that they are conscious about what their actions mean for the enhancement of diversity. We have a challenge related to generation gaps, and we are trying to, as you've seen, we have all manner of generations in our workforce, and we are trying to enhance team building exercises, and also to denounce generational stereotyping and raise generational awareness within the workplace. We are also encouraging knowledge sharing across officers from different age groups to encourage mixes in office and duty posts, and encouraging teamwork. As I've already noted, Chair, we have a challenge of gender inequality within the Kenya Prison Service, and first and foremost, we are implementing a gender and anti-discrimination awareness campaign within the Kenya Prison Service, and also working hard to meet the requirements of the law by affording adequate and equal opportunities for appointment, training, career advancement for both male and female officers. And I am very keen on this inequality gap being addressed in the shortest time possible, and me and my colleagues are working hard to make sure that that happens. We also have a challenge related to ethnic and cultural differences, and because of the different backgrounds of our officers, and again that is being addressed. And then we are also trying to look around all our correctional facilities, all our prisons facilities, to make sure that other than the macro level, other than the national composition, no single prison, no single facility is composed of staff or officers who, for example, exceed the constitutional thresholds. For example, no prison, individual prison facility should be manned or composed by staff more than a third of which are from one ethnic community, because diversity has to be looked from the global national perspective, but also at facility institutional perspective. I'm on page 18, Honorable Chair. The measures that the Kenya Prison Service has put in place to promote persons with disability-friendly work environment include: 1, the service facilitates the appointment of the Departmental Disability Inclusion Committee to spearhead disability mainstreaming in the department in order to comply with the government policy on affirmative action for persons with disability. Number 2, the service ensures provision of equal promotion opportunities, as I've demonstrated in the past table, to qualified persons with disability. In other words, no one would be denied promotion simply because they have a disability. And number 3, equal training opportunities are accorded to persons with disabilities, and deployment is done based on individual needs. And number 4, the service has initiated collaboration with partners with the aim of supporting persons with disability by providing services that include mental health and developing strategies that address the gaps of persons with disabilities in the department, among others. Honorable Chair, honorable members, pursuant to Article 234(5) of the Constitution of Kenya, Section 31 of the Public Service Commission Act 2017, and the Public Service Commission regulations, the Public Service Commission delegates the human resource powers and functions through delegation instruments to the authorized officer. And to answer the question around the recruitment process, I would like to tell the committee that the recruitment process is guided by the following procedure. 1, declaration of vacant posts. I'm on page 18, where vacant posts are declared. Number 2, advertisement of the vacant posts. And number 3, the recruitment of prison constables. And on recruitment also, I'm on page 19 on top. Other than the prison constables, we also recruit cadets and technicians. These are diploma and certificate holders on different entry level, guided by the scheme of service of the Kenya Prison Service, and university graduates as cadets in the fields related to correctional services. Upon recruitment, the recruits are trained, or they go through an initial training of 9 months, but for cadets it takes 13 months. It's longer. Honorable Chair, honorable members, with regard to 30% reservation for public procurement for disadvantaged groups since 2016, the table on page 19 shows that except for the year 2020-2021, the other years under scrutiny, we have not reached the 30% AGPO requirement, but 2020 we exceeded it tremendously, actually, because the percentage was 58.5%. And the table also shows how much of that procurement has been done on the basis of the principle of Buy Kenya, Build Kenya. Honorable Chair and members, the total budget set aside for procurement of goods and services in the financial years from 2016 to date is shown on the table on page 19, which goes up to page 20. And that table explains the budget every financial year. For example, this financial year 2022-2023, we have a budget for procurement, which is about 2.5 billion shillings. and out of which 448 million shillings approximately is reserved for AGPO, that is access to government procurement opportunities for youths, persons with disabilities, and women entities, and approximately 308 million is reserved for the Buy Kenya, Build Kenya the initiative achievement. The procurement disaggregation of budget is for the previous years is provided in that table that spills over to page 20. Honorable Chair and members, the number of youths, women and persons with disability whose goods and services have been procured in the by the Kenya Prison Service since the relevant law entered into force. The table is provided for since 2016-2017 financial year until the 2022-2023 financial year. That table is provided on page 20, the last page of my statement. And the highest, I think, is the peak, or when we performed very well, was 2019 to 2020, when the number was 107 for youth, 139 for women, and 22 for persons with disability. But also 2018, 2019, when for youth it was 122 entities, 233 for women, and 12 for persons with disability. In compliance with Section 157(12) of the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act 2015, since January 2016, the institution has been making and forwarding the necessary reports to the Public Procurement Oversight Authority as required by law. Some of the challenges faced in enforcing implementation of the 30% reservation of public procurement for disadvantaged groups include reduced budget, which reduces the space, the procurement space generally, and therefore it affects even these protected groups. Number two, there has been undue pressure around procurement, which I think is a national problem, and we have made it clear we've asked all officers who are involved in procurement and the accounting officers to make sure that they are not pressurized to bend the law or to make procurement decisions outside the law, and will be very strict and firm to make sure that we do not have people who are claiming to be sent by this senior officer or this state officer trying to interfere with procurement targets, procurement decisions, and so forth and so on. And then the use of proxies by bidders who don't qualify under these categories. You know, you'll find a purportedly women's only company or youth company or a PWD company, but once we do our due diligence, we discover these are just companies owned by the rest of us, and they are just being used as proxies, and then eventually we end up disqualifying this kind of bidders. And then finally is we are trying also to encourage young people, persons with disability, and women to apply. And going forward, Chair, as I conclude, the same way I have made the commitment before this committee that the issue of gender, the legal obligations to ensure gender inclusivity in employment and promotions is achieved. I also want to make a similar commitment that also in terms of access to procurement for the Kenya Prison Service and all the other entities that fall within the Interior Ministry, we have to meet the targets. And therefore, perhaps when I come before you again in the future, these figures will look different. I will make sure we go out of our way to remove the imbalances, to ensure the ethnic diversity of the people of Kenya is reflected in all our formations and all ranks, to ensure that the career progression and promotion track is managed so that you have young officers occupying management positions earlier in their career. We'll also ensure that our officers who reach retirement age are allowed to retire so that they can build our country in different capacities, and allow also their younger officers to be promoted while they are still in service, and that will go a long way in improving the morale of the officers. I submit, Honorable Chair.